Hey everybody, welcome back to Champnsons and our racing series where we have decided to join up with Haas and take a season in an F1 seat for the Haas Racing team while we let our NASCAR, Xfinity, and Truck Series team kind of work their business. They will be competing against the Stewart Haas Racing team, but this is just straight up for Haas, knowing that we were eventually wanting to get into Formula One. And this is the best way to test the waters out. See how it really works. How does the car drive? How do we find the best way to operate once we do start our own Formula One team? All right, so now remember, Mick Shumacher is out for this season from the Haas Racing team. He does not have a contract right now. Magnussen is going to be our teammate on the track. So, you know, it'll be interesting to see. This is a new kind of racing for us, coming into all these different kind of courses. The cars are a lot more sensitive, a lot more fragile than what we have with our truck or even the Xfinity car. So, you know, this should also give us some pretty good funds to kind of build up what we have right now in the Xfinity series. We already know it's going to be a couple years before we get into a NASCAR. But if we can use both of these groups to kind of funnel money towards each other, I think it can really create a successful team in worldwide racing. So, you know, there are those positives too, and that's kind of why we took this opportunity offered by Haas when they did offer it. Now, we are opening up here at the start of the Formula One season here in Bahrain. This is quite an interesting track. It's got plenty of DRS zones, so we should have good speed coming through. And reaching into some of these corners and these turns, it's a lot different than what we've ever faced in the past. But one thing we are good at is pushing a car to its limits. That is what we've done in our racing with the Truck Series and with the Xfinity car. Getting that last win at Talladega, we pushed the car to the limits. And I think that's what we're going to kind of see what we can do with this kind of car. So by the time we do start a team up, maybe we will be able to give that car a little extra shove, a little extra nudge, and try to get at least into the middle of the pack to start. We'll have to see how that kind of goes and see what we can do. Now, this is a pretty good driving car. I have always liked the Bahrain track in any previous F1 game. If you time out your DRS zones fairly well, you can actually maintain and manage to put pretty good times up. And that's what we were able to do. As the first lap comes through here in qualifying, we do claim basically the first spot, the pole position. Now, are we going to be able to hold that as the qualifying section goes through? Who knows? We'll have to see, but we got to continue to put together some good solid laps on here and hit these corners in the right way. And that's something that, you see, we're having a little bit of trouble as we go over these little God, I don't want to call them, I don't really know what they call those little things. They're not curbs, but I guess that's what I'm just going to call them. What the hell? Well, as we go over the curbs, you know, it takes a lot of timing with the gear shifting, with the braking. It's one of those things that's incredibly difficult to do, that you have to really get the timing down just right. Now, some of these more wide sweeping turns, those are obviously what we are built for. You know, that's the closest thing you get to a NASCAR is a wide sweeping left turn, right? So, you know, this track offers us a lot of the wider turns. We don't have to always hammer down on the brake. Hopefully we can avoid locking up our tires some. So I think we'll be able to put together some good laps here. Right now, we are being chased by Russell and Hamilton in the qualifying zone. We are still in P1 after 2 laps. We only, really for the first stage of qualifying, we only pack in enough fuel for about 3 laps, and that's to make sure the car is as light as possible and that we are able to, you know, get as much speed going as we can. We have the soft tires on right now, so they do provide a lot more grip. Now, knowing that, whenever we go into the race, we'll probably be on mediums, would be my guess. I don't think we'll start out with hards. We'll have to see how our strategy is at that point. But, you know, it'll take a little longer. These corners will be slightly more difficult to kind of manage, at least at the start of a race. Once we get some tires warmed up, we'll be able to kind of grip them. But finding out, the pattern for these things as we slide up on the curb a little bit more into those tight turns of when to hit those brakes, when to hit the gas coming out of the corner, that's going to take a little bit for us to do. Now, we've put together some great laps, but in all reality, it's because we don't have competition on the field. I mean, yeah, there's other cars in the track. I mean, so, yeah, there is that. But overall, we're not having to worry about someone chasing us, someone else being in the DRS zone, trying to pass us and all that fun business. So these qualifying laps, while they are stressful because you have to push the car to the max and beyond, it really leaves a little opening available just for the simple fact that they are not you're not being chased, basically. Now that was the Q1 section of qualifying. We're going to go ahead and move on up here to Q3. We are basically in the middle of the pack. We've been dropped back down to the 6th spot, P6, to get this race started, which is kind of where I would expect to be. I do think we still have a pretty good car, and as long as we drive it correctly coming into these turns, we should be able to get it probably moved up and actually hopefully retake the pole position. Right now, the difficulty setting that we have it on, it's right below, it's like a 70, 69 or 70. So it's right below the difference between either hard and expert or medium and hard. I'm not exactly sure. We will be moving that up to the harder levels as we get going in this season, just because it's going to take us a little bit to figure out the racing. When are we going to be able to pass and all that? Because, like I said, these cars are so much more fragile. You take one bump in it, it can ruin your whole dang race, especially on the front side. Where before, you draft somebody, you run into their bumper, so be it. Not too much damage a dent's going to really do when it comes to your timing. But here it's going to knock a wing off. And next thing you know, not only do you not have control of the car, but you don't have nearly as much speed. So, hopefully we can try to claim that P1 spot, and we do, beating out Leclerc, just barely though, for the P1 spot going into our first lap of the Q3 which is exactly where we needed to be. I think for qualifying, like I said, our car is going to be great. We can definitely push it. Once it comes to the racing portion, it's going to be a little bit more hairy, right? The car is going to be loaded down with more fuel. We're not going to be on the soft tires. We're going to have a bunch of other cars around us, so we're going to have to be a little bit more careful. Here in qualifying, I can sling this bad boy around the track as much as I want without truly risking damage from somebody being beside us. You do have to watch for some of these slower cars on the qualifying track, but overall, it's really just going to be something where all we have to do truly is watch out for just a slower car, but in the race, you're watching out for everybody. All right, 19 other cars are coming after you. And that includes your teammate. Your teammate will pass you, right, in this game at least. Maybe not in real life so much. Do you see that always happening, teammates racing each other? But definitely in this game, that does happen. Okay, so we are going to have to keep an eye on that and watch that as we go throughout the season. Really is going to be the biggest thing. Now here we come to the end of lap number 2 in our final qualifying session, and we're still going to maintain P1. So we will still claim P1 for the actual Grand Prix, and that is what we are going to jump to right now. The Formula One Grand Prix, our first start in a Haas F1 car here in Bahrain at night. 3 sectors here in this track. It is 3.362 miles, multiple DRS zones, and about 15 turns. But that last straightaway gives you a lot of opportunity to build up some speed and maybe take a dive down into turn number 1 to make a pass. So a big track, good for us, and I think we can make something happen. Now looking at the grid, we did hold on to the P1 spot just in front of Carlos Sainz with Ferrari. And then coming in to the P3 and 4, you have both Mercedes, Russell, and Hamilton. Ferrari, Leclerc, Max Verstappen with Red Bull, Perez, Ocon, Alonso, Bottas in the 9-10 spot. Ricciardo, Zhou in 12. Gasly, Lando Norris. Tsunoda and Albon Then our teammate Magnussen and Sebastian Vettel in 17 and 18, Lance Stroll in 19, and Nicholas Latifi with Williams Racing in P20. So I am probably going to adjust the difficulty after this race immediately, just because P1 probably is not where Haas, I don't know if they've ever had a pole position now that I think about it, at least in the last few years. It's bound to have happened with as many races as there are, but when you take Mercedes, Red Bull, and the way even Ferrari did last year into account, I don't know if they have. So we'll definitely be looking to adjust that. So I'll notify you. I'll keep an eye out on it. You'll notice how some of the guys race a little bit more difficult. So we are going to be getting ready here for the start of this race at night under the stars here in Bahrain. As we take a look at some of these cars on the starting grid this evening. This is an incredibly well-lit track. It's only 80 degrees out, so our tires should have pretty good grip on them as we get this thing underway. We got 5 lights, and they are gone, and here we go shooting out. We are going to be on the medium tires. Here comes Russell with Mercedes and Carlos Sainz with Ferrari behind us. Sainz has now moved up into the P2 spot, and he's going to dive down below us and try to get us out, but we will edge him out to keep him from getting in front of us. That's kind of a NASCAR maneuver there, cutting him off like that. Sainz and Verstappen are 2-3 respectively. Russell and Hamilton both in Mercedes in the 4-5 spots as we get this race underway. It's labeled as long, but it's basically what amounts to half the race total. Normally I think Bahrain is 57 laps. We're going 29 in this one. Still running about 50% races. So it should be a nice little go-around. As we dove in, it took a bad corner on that one. Almost gave Sainz what he needed to get around us here coming into the final few turns as we take this sharp one going left. Have to hit the brake just properly as we've got a lot of cars on us less than a second. And it'll take to about the 3rd lap when the DRS zones kick in. So if they're within a second of us, that DR zone is going to kick in, and these guys are going to be flying. And Sainz is right now keeping on our trail just 0.3 of a second back as we come into these larger turns that we really can get a lot of good speed on coming in and out of. Now here, as we come around to approach the ending of the first lap, we're almost there as we're at the back of the track as we hit this one of the final turns coming in. And this really is the final turn to get along that front straightaway. I guess this would be the front straightaway. And cross the line, first lap through in Formula 1, we will be in the P1 position. Sainz, Verstappen still chasing us in the 2-3 spot. Hamilton has now passed Russell to move up into the number 4 position here, just a couple seconds off of our pace. Now here on this little, I guess that's what they call the chicane. I'm not exactly sure. If you know what a chicane is in Formula 1, put down in the comments. Help educate me on this one. I've heard it enough on the Drive to Survive show. Never figured out what it meant, though. So, coming through these turns, though, getting a little losing control. And that's going to be something I'm going to have to deal with. I do keep the driver line on. I've seen people play this game without the driver line. I'm not sure how the hell you do it. But hey, more power to you. I'm just not that capable. So, and I do race on a controller. I do not have a steering wheel setup, and it makes it a little difficult when it comes to gear shifting and it comes to the braking and all that. I would think. I would assume having the whole driving setup might make it a little easier. I don't know. It may not. So still here on the second lap, we're about a half second ahead of Sainz. Little over a second ahead of Verstappen, but there's a lot of racing to go. We are only on the second of 29 laps here, coming near the end of lap number 2 here in our first ever Formula 1 race. As we are still pushing this car, our medium tires have gotten nice and warmed up, and they are really going to be allowing us to get some good grip coming into these turns and then coming right out of them. Now I want you to notice that the lap time, we're at about 1:36 seconds per lap. During qualifying, we're at 1:33. So every car has dropped off the pace, mainly because of the fuel and the tires, but just keep that in mind. DRS has now been enabled, and Carlos Sainz is going to try to push that one through. Coming into this turn, as he will grip the inside section, but we're able to kind of squeeze him out there as we're still battling with Sainz coming into this little S-turn area. as he is right on our tail looking to make a pass, and he does finally go around us. Carlos Sainz takes over the P1 position. We drop back into P2. It's one of those things you felt like you knew was going to happen, just weren't sure when it was going to happen. But he made a smooth little move around us, a nice little pass, no damage done to anybody, and he takes over the P1 spot, and now he is separating from us drastically. Verstappen is hot on our tail and actually is closing in on us, both of us in DRS. So we're able to close in on Sainz just slightly, but Verstappen gunned it and really got up on our tail there, but now during this little section of the track we're able to make some headway, especially with all of these turns that we're having to deal with here. As we come around to the end of lap number 3, this is going to be a big push to keep Verstappen off our tail. We really need to get him to that above 1 second mark coming across this finish line, or coming across the checkered line. So that way we can avoid the DRS, but we're not going to do it. He is going to have DRS enabled, and he's just knocking off tenths of a lap. Just knocking it off. Just constantly nailing it, tenths of a lap after tenths of a lap. And in fact, we're here a little later in the race in the 7th position. Every car is. And we send it down and we're going to slam into Ocon. Whoa, man, we sent that one hard here on the 7th lap. Hard into that first turn. Could not get on the brakes hard enough. And that's going to damage our front left wing. And so we are going to hit Ocon. They're going to give us a collision warning, the FIA is. And now we're going to go ahead and have to go into the pits. We were only on a one-stop strategy. Most cars here are doing only one stop. That's what we were focusing on. But now we have changed our strategy to a 2-stop. Because I expected better braking. I really did, but that's not what I got. And I came through that first turn way too hard, hitting into Ocon. So you know he's got to have some damage, at least on the side of his car, if our front wing is that damaged. As we are going to have to pit here. This is going to be tough. Our first pit stop as a Formula 1 driver. And look at that. Swinging that far out wide on these turns. A lot of that is a symptom of the damage to the wing. We don't have as much downforce pushing on us. We just lose some of that aerodynamics. And next thing you know, we go swinging out wide on these turns. Right, so now we have dropped back into P7. Like I said, everybody just started passing us. After the P1 qualifying session, or Q1 qualifying session, we were in like the 6th spot. So this is probably more naturally where our car belongs than what we are able to aggressively do in qualifying. So here comes into the pits. Now we are one of only a few drivers actually pitting right now. We are making sure to do this before our teammate. As we pull in and get stopped just perfectly. But they have to replace the whole front wing. So that's how they do it here in Formula 1. If you got wing damage, it is they replace that whole damn thing. And we are out of there. Stop time 7.5 seconds. A really good job from this team to get us out there in 7.5 seconds. Downside is 8 laps into it, or on the 8th lap into it, we've dropped all the way back to P14. The positive side to that is there's a lot of racing left to go. Before things start closing out too quick, but we are going to have to start making some passes. And I have a feeling when guys start going into the pits, we should be able to at least close the distance on a lot of them, if not pass some of them up, and at least try to crawl into a top 10 spot here in our first ever Formula 1 at Bahrain, under the stars of Bahrain. Now we come through these tight corners, and I really do hate those. Just because of the braking, having to hit it too hard. It's a big timing thing. Like this one even. It's not as tight as the last one, at least it didn't seem like it, but the way we have to straighten out and come out of that turn on the gas pedal, it just makes it, I don't want to say impossible because obviously you're able to do it, but it makes it just incredibly difficult, the timing of it. It's going to be a lot to learn. We got a lot of races here. In Formula 1 also, we are going to check back in on our NASCAR and Xfinity and Truck Series team every now and then, so we'll have to keep that in mind as we go through our new racing series and getting this season under Haas Racing under our belt before we open up our own team in Formula 1. Now, coming across the finish lap number 8, we are still in P14 after that pit stop, but we are catching up to Norris. And Norris, we had to have our second stop. After that, we dropped back quite a bit. So we were running P14 before on that as we crossed the finish line for the 8th lap. Now here on the 26th of 29 laps, we are in the P15 spot. And that's a testament to all these cars and the strategy and the fact that our strategy got all bungled up because we decided to run into Ocon, who happens to be the car right in front of us here in 14. So got to work on my timing to get these passes done correctly without damaging either of our car again. So we'll see what I'm going to be able to pull off here as we come around to some of these tight corners at this track and on this race. Chasing down Ocon and really chasing anybody down is quite a task in Formula 1. Ocon in Alpine Racing doesn't have the fastest car in the world, but they seem to race pretty dang swell against us and holding me off so far, to say the least. As we are less than 1 second behind Ocon. We're about 3-4 seconds behind Tsunoda, so have to be careful. Have to watch out for all these cars, especially you don't want to battle one car too much and let another car catch up to you, which that other car happens to be for Alonso, which is Ocon's teammate. Now we hit the DRS coming in there across that front straightaway or down that back side, and then we should have it one more time here coming across that front straightaway as we do hit the DRS, and it's our time to make the move. We dive down in low. He actually goes to block us, and we shoot ourselves on the outside, coming into turn number 1 pretty hard. We got to hold it on the outside as we are able to hold it on the outside of turn number 1 and hold the inside through turn number 2 and kind of squeeze Ocon out. So we are going to get the clean pass here, moving up into P14 position with only about 2.5 laps left to go here in this one. So moving on up to P14. You want to be a little bit higher. You have to get in the top 10 to get points. So we definitely need to try to move up. But if you look at where Magnussen, our teammate, is, he is 24 seconds ahead of us. I don't think we can catch him in 2.5 laps. I mean, don't call me, I'm not being a pessimist. I'm just saying, being a realist. Tsunoda, he's right there in front of us. We got eyeballs on Tsunoda. We are going to try to chase him down here in these last couple laps, see if we can't get him past. Now, I would take a 12-13 finish, especially knowing that, we ended up having the damage there and had to change up our pit stop strategy. Everybody else is on hards that they've been on for a while. We are on mediums, which aren't old, but they're also not new. So, the hards, they're coming down, they're wearing down pretty good. And so they should be losing grip at least a little bit, and that way we can actually try to squeeze some extra grip out of ours. And make a pass whenever we get the opportunity. Just over a second behind Tsunoda here as we try to come across the front straightaway. We're not able to get our DRS going just because of the timing between us and Tsunoda. But we are catching up to him and hammering down this time, doing about 10th second at every little section or turn. So we should be doing pretty good to get caught up to him. Being in P14, like I said, does not give us points, but it is something to kind of see where we are really as a team and where our car truly is. P14, once again, that's kind of because of the pit stop, the extra pit stop with the front wing damage. Outside of that, I don't think we're really a winning team right now, a champion team with the way our car is. Haas isn't able to have that great a development going compared to the Mercedes, the Red Bulls, the Ferraris of the world. So P14, first race, I can see that about being right there for the first race. 14, 13, definitely top 15. So I am glad to get top 15, even though where we're at does not result in points. Chasing down Tsunoda, we have closed the gap to 0.3 of a second here. Coming around this back section. As we move down to the inside, try to get the pass going. He tries to shove us down. And Tsunoda gets aggressive with it, but we send it hard into the turn, and we're actually able to get our braking timing down correctly. We make the pass clearly and get into the P13 spot. Now, Tsunoda is going to have the DRS, which he has activated. here on the final lap at Bahrain. Our first ever Formula One race, and Tsunoda passes us, making it look really danged easy as we come through. Carlos Sainz has already finished. We're just now in the first third of the racetrack. Carlos Sainz, he will claim victory for Ferrari in the opening race of the season. And that's kind of disappointing when you have this much track left and you see that somebody has already won the race, right? It just is. There's the fireworks going off. That's got to make us feel good. As me and Tsunoda doing battle for the 13th position right now. As we are hot on his tail, but I cannot run into him. I mean, Ocon's just a second and a half behind us. Alonso, his teammates, 2.5 behind us. So definitely, still cannot relax and have a mistake happen at this point. Now coming down these last final few turns, Tsunoda just launches himself away from us to make the gap between us now over a second as it kind of does its fluctuating thing. Coming through these turns, we're able to hold on a lot more speed and use our overtake energy store that we do have kind of backed up right now. I'm coming through these final sections to give us that extra little boost to try to get past Tsunoda here, but it looks like he's now extended to 0.4 of a second his lead. Anytime we think we get close, he just kind of bounces forward and he's going to take off on us, and now we are going to cross the finish line with the checkered flag here in P14 in our first ever Formula One race. That had potential to be great. We did blow it when we hit Ocon on that one, so gonna have to drive a little bit more carefully with all the damage that thing has sustained. Now Ferrari, they are an extremely excited team. Haas, we didn't get any points, so not really much excitement around our home area. Ferrari takes one. Is that George Russell at third, it looked like.
I feel like consistency was probably the key
we'll have to kind of see how the rest of the podium does work out. Sainz needs to live it up, though. Great race by Ferrari. Great clean race by Sainz to get past me early on, and then just never really relinquish it since that moment. So, pretty good race for us. Now, on that note, as the guys take the podium, I do want to remind y'all to hit the subscribe button if you have not hit it already. And if you did like today's video, go ahead and give us a thumbs up, as it really does help out the channel. And I greatly appreciate everything that y'all do for us here at Champnsons Racing. So, Red Bull got blanked on this one. Ferrari wins. Mercedes with Hamilton takes second. Mercedes with Russell takes third. Wow, did not think anybody else was going to get blanked on it. But hey, first race of the season, a lot of racing to go. Got a lot of things that are going to happen. So I do want to thank y'all for joining, and I do want to thank y'all for all the support y'all have shown us here over the last couple months. Now almost to 310 subscribers at the time of this recording. That's all because of y'all, so thank y'all very much for all that support. Now, and then I will see y'all in the next race there in Saudi Arabia. So on that note, everybody stay safe. And, well, y'all know how it goes by now, right? Later, y'all.